Look at my notes: stalking, fear mongering, yellow envelopes, questionable subject lines.
Challenge number 2 is going to be for you to give me a high-level outline. I am not looking for granular. We will be getting a little more granular on this later, but I just need a high-level outline and a strategy for your digital marketing efforts toward those classes of business that you're going after. Digital marketing efforts for those classes of business that you're going after. High level, you can go into as much detail as you want. Obviously, when you execute on this, you're going to want to be more detailed. And if you want to prepare ahead, I can promise you we are going to drill down on the digital marketing piece for lead generation, because that's going to be an underlying theme for this season. So I'm only looking for the high level outline now, but if you drill down on it, you're probably doing yourself a favor going forward. So I'll throw you that bone. But there's your challenge. 2 weeks from yesterday. We'll see what you got.
Let's get right to it, shall we?
The first thing that I want to do in order to do that is to go online, figure out where they're all hanging out, where are these companies spending time.
What will you do different? Creating content in English and Spanish and becoming a reference in Instagram and TikTok for my industry.
I came up with a 3-pronged approach, which I affectionately call the ISD strategy. Internet, social, and direct, running simultaneously and uninterrupted.
First off is going to be an email drip or email campaign. And that first email, though, is going to be very customized to them. It's going to be a video, an email that points them to a video that talks about our first conversation.
The thing that I decided to do before doing anything in the digital world was to polish my LinkedIn profile.
So Blue Collar Blueprint's gonna have a landing page. I purchased bluecollarblueprint.com. And on this landing page, we're gonna give a guide to a ebook strategy as well as a podcast strategy.
So I kind of thought about doing insurance in a minute and being more consistent, where I post it like every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, where it's like, even like, what's a deductible? What does liability mean?
5 channels that I plan on using from a digital marketing strategy are going to be email, social media, a landing page, rocket referrals, and associations.
I've also been working on content strategy, coming up with fresh content, demonstrates expertise. How can I solve problems? How can I help people understand their modification factor for workers' compensation?
We're developing a website, and the website is where we want to point all of this traffic, whether it's through emails, blog posts, podcasts, whatever we're doing.
It's all about content, and that ultimately you can use that content, create videos, put it on your website, and share it. So I figured, why not share it in a bigger way?
Hi, this is Kevin Leipzig in California with the Contractors Resource Center. And first thing I did with this challenge is really think about interviewing my targeted class code, interviewing the business owners within my targeted class code. And so I want to reach out for help to builders and contractors that I know. I am focusing specifically on roofing contractors, HVAC contractors, and remodeling contractors, all residential, and wanted to learn a little bit about their pain points and hot buttons around risk management. So again, I reached out to several builders and contractors that I know in California, both new contractors as well as in the middle market, and also posted some questions on social media to try to collect some information. And questions I was asking, besides which social media platforms contractors were using, I also kind of took the advantage of the opportunity and the advantage of asking what else besides price is important to you in looking at risk management.
You did a really nice job of doing research and explaining what you were doing. The fact that you've already got 7.3 thousand members in your Facebook group is awesome. There's one, well, I'm going to give you a couple pieces of feedback. There's one really big one that I feel like you missed, but you probably would pick up on down the road. But I feel like you've missed a golden opportunity to have to create a podcast around what you're doing when you were interviewing the different business owners. If I were in your shoes, I think the YouTube channel is a great idea, but I also think that a podcast is a good idea because that's something that people can listen to as they're driving around or they're working. And I understand roofers don't want to listen to podcasts about insurance while they're on roofs, but you would be surprised how much content like that is consumed while people are driving around. And what I would do is create a podcast specific for California contractors. I would interview members of your group. I would make it a bragging right to be on the podcast and pump the living daylights out of that on social media. I would also do a video recording of the podcast, just like we do with power producers, and push that over as a video style interview to your YouTube channel. Then I would take that stuff and chop it up and make social posts out of it and drive people to those domains, and then ultimately have clickable links for them to join the other portions of your social community where you're able to distribute the content that you've created in those channels.
Hey Protege Nation, I'm Karen Seifert. In an effort to keep my digital marketing plan manageable and consistent, I'm going to start off small and build from there. I also believe it's better to do a few things well than a bunch of things half-assed. Before you start a digital marketing plan, you should identify your ideal clients like we did in Challenge 1. My ideal clients are middle market BSCs, food processors, and law firms. Next, you should have the proper digital marketing channels in place. The digital marketing channels that I have set up for this purpose are the Streamline Business Insurance website, email, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Part of my digital marketing plan is content marketing, which includes creating and online sharing of materials such as videos, blogs, and social media posts. Being on video is one of my least favorite things, but as Ryan Hanley told me, just do it anyway. Since one of my goals for this content is to educate business owners, it makes it a little less painful because I will be helping them. In order to duplicate my efforts, I'll use the information from my videos for blogs on my website and for content on social media. Being more consistent with blogs will also help improve my SEO.
Congratulations. You just freaking nailed it. You hit every single point that I was looking for. Every time I thought, oh man, she's not going to say this, it was the literal next thing out of your mouth. I can't give you any kind of feedback to improve on this. Your submission is very much a testament to A, your experience, but I also see the fingerprints of Mick Hunt and Ryan Keating on your presentation as well. So it's nice to see that your coaches are getting you where you need to be and that this is 100% on point. Now, I don't think you need the coaches. I think you have the skill set on your own, but they're just doing nothing but solidifying what you already know. Your presence on camera has become much better. I always enjoy the content in the subtleties in the scripting of your video. I do pick up on that, even though it's not necessarily part of the challenge. I do find it entertaining. So good job.
What's going on, everybody? Mitch Gibson here from Team M&M and HRM Insurance Services. Looking forward to Challenge 2 here and diving right into my digital marketing strategy that I plan to use with my 3 vertical markets here in this season of the Protege. I went through and identified the key platforms that I plan to use, the mediums out there in the content and digital space. Which, as you can see there, if we go down the line, Inside Indiana Podcast, that's on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and much more. That is my local podcast that I've had going on since 2020. We'll get more into that stuff in each one of these categories a little bit farther in detail. Plan to use landing pages quite a bit, YouTube and an educational content library, which will turn into blogs in some sort of way after recording and making those videos. Plan to use MailChimp for the email marketing piece, Zapier, which is an automated platform for data, transferring it from one platform to another, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then most importantly, my favorite thing because of the Inside Indiana podcast is 9 Star TV. It's a local channel 9 here in Hancock County. You know, end all be all goal of this is to one, help educate the industries that the 3 vertical markets that I am going to be going after, is to be able to educate and help them out as much as possible.
Listen, you nailed Challenge 2. I appreciate the level of detail that you went into. You went way above and beyond what you had to, but everything looked really, really good, man. Really, really impressed with the difference between where you were in Challenge 1 and where you're at now. So whatever you did mentally to get there, keep it there. Here's the one thing I'm going to tell you that you missed, and constructive criticism. It is something that I was specifically looking for. I don't think that it affects where you're going to end up for the week based on how great everything else in your submission was. But the one thing I feel you missed on is webinars. I didn't hear you say anything at all about doing webinars, and those are a huge opportunity for you, especially with the landing page strategy that you put together.
For Challenge 2 of the Protege, I've put together a digital marketing outline, just outlining the broad strategy that I'm going to use for all 3 of my industries. And as I can see from my screen here, I put together a logo to brand the process that I'm going to use for all 3 industries, to solve a problem for these firms. And so because I chose real estate firms, CPA firms, and title companies, I can brand them all under Firm Secured, my new logo, and use my digital marketing strategy for all 3 firms. As you can see, we chose Firm Secured, powered by Veritas Insurance or Veritas Risk Management. So for my digital strategy, I've put together some complementary and interactive digital channels. And it's hard for me in this challenge was separating these out, because in my mind and the way I want to implement it throughout the Protege and throughout the rest of my career, I want to have them so integrated and implemented together. I did want to mention the fact that a huge part of both my lead generation, prospecting, and sales will be non-digital marketing channels, specifically telemarketing or cold calls. I've already started doing a ton of those. Word of mouth marketing, referrals, and print marketing campaigns. I put together a process where I've got a letter showing up on the desk of every one of my prospects every single month. I've already started implementing that and sent out several hundred letters this month.
What I love about what you did, even though your video was longer than I would normally want it to be, you needed to take that long to show me how you were going to tie everything together. And you did it like a master tailor. You have everything intertwined just the way it needs to be. And I love it. I love the fact you recognize the fact that you have to have your digital strategy working in concert with your actual presence on the streets, in your telemarketing, and all of the other things that we have to do to be 5-tool players. So I can't tell you how proud I am to see your thought process and watch you just absolutely crush this challenge. This is just to tweak it a little bit. The one thing that I would like to see you do, or that I would have liked to see you talk about, is the webinars and exactly what you're going to do with that, right? So here's what I mean by that. I would have liked to, I know you're on the right track thinking about it. So what I would like to have seen you do is finish that thought process in terms of, you record the webinar. Now, what do you do with it? Do you let it live on your website? Is it behind a sign-up form? And if it is behind a sign up form, what are you going to do with that information? What information are you going to ask? And the other thing that's really important about webinars is that you can chop them up and make a ton of digital content from that webinar.
In today's world, being an insurance agent means being online, being a resource for your clients and someone that your prospects can become familiar with and learn to trust. To do that, you've got to be all around. You have to be available, providing value, whether that's educational or giving them resources. There's several ways to do this, and I'm going to address a high-level overview of how I plan to do that over the next several months. The main theme here is create big content, take big content, make a bunch of small content out of it. Share that in pieces, 3 times a week on LinkedIn, or 5 times a week on Facebook, or create just a little video to put on YouTube about that. When you create big content like you do, there's just little snippets, 30 seconds, that can be turned into really valuable and really interesting. It draws people in. They want to know more. They hear that snippet, they follow in, and that leads to a discussion. They go to your website and fill out a form. That's the approach. It's called content atomization. You take big content, you atomize it, you break it into small pieces, and you repurpose it. That's the idea.
So let's talk about the one thing I think you needed to drill down on more. And let me just be very, very clear. Your response, although it wasn't perfect, was about as close to perfect as it could be, and it could have been perfect if you would have included this. And I'm sorry, Ryan, but when you give me that much of detail, you're going to get criticism because I'm going to be looking for the one thing you didn't talk about in 13 minutes. So here it is. What I would have liked to have heard you talk about specific to the landing pages is what kind of content are you going to put on there, and what kind of interaction is someone going to have when they get there. The purpose of a landing page is, yes, to educate and be brief and have them not necessarily be ingrained in your entire website, but they're also most effectively used to drive information into your CRM. So what I would have liked to have heard is that you have specific collateral or content that you're going to create and have it hidden behind that landing page that would require a short form registration, which would then push that information into your Epic CRM so that you can put these people into your drip campaigns after they sign up to download a specific piece of collateral. Great job, man. Just absolutely crushed it again. If I were to give you any advice, like I was your coach, I would tell you that now's the time you put the pedal to the metal. Do not rest on the fact you've had a couple good challenges in a row, because Derek Hayden will tell you, I will cut you off at the knees if you let up. You're capable of winning this thing, but you got to keep the pedal to the metal, man. Another great week, Ryan. Good job. The challenge this week was to talk about an overview of your digital marketing strategy. And I probably set everybody up because this is the one thing that I am most passionate about in the industry. I love digital marketing. It's a passion of mine, and it's something that I take very, very seriously. There were a few things that I was looking for, but I didn't give anybody any parameters, as I typically don't, because I wanted to see who was going to hit the mark without me pointing them in the right direction. The one thing I have to tell everybody watching this, and even those that participate in the competition, is you don't get instructions of exactly what your prospects expect from you in the real world. So when I give a challenge, I'm going to give you enough to let you understand the overall thought process behind it, but you got to make that your own and take it and run with it. The number one thing I was looking for was for people to address writing blog posts. That is the backbone of any digital marketing strategy. Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, none of that matters if they go to your website and it's empty. A blog post is like hiring a salesperson to work for your agency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Every time somebody types something into Google relevant to the keywords in your blog post, you have an opportunity for that salesman to get in front of them. You got to have blog posts as part of your digital strategy. And I'm absolutely shocked that a number of people missed that. The other thing that I think is really important if you're going to have an effective digital strategy is you have to be able to make big chunks of content that can be reduced to smaller micro posts. Ryan Smith did a great job of talking about this in his submission because he knows it's something I do, but it's also something that makes sense. It's more efficient. If you can record a webinar and then break it up into micro posts of a couple of minutes each, now you have something that you can push out to social to tease your audience and link back to a landing page that webinar lives off of, that now somebody can go in and put in the information necessary to sign up and watch the entire webinar. Then you push that information into your CRM. Now you have a name, a title, an email, possibly a phone number. It depends on what you ask for, but you got to be thinking about stuff from that perspective. The content game is so powerful because it works when you're not working. And who doesn't want someone working on their behalf, just creating leads and funneling them to them? The other thing I saw, that was not consistent across the board that is vital when you're doing digital marketing and specifically social media stuff, you have to give way more than you receive. Ryan Smith, again, did a great job of bringing this up and talking about how he would interact with prospect posts, comment on them, share things about their company, share things about them in the community and all of that, and that is spot on. Sarah Rice also did a very good job of talking about how she cross-posts things from her clients and prospects through her various social channels, but that's where it ended with those two. And so what I would challenge the other contestants to do is to drop back and think about how unselfish can you be when it comes to social? How unselfish can you be when it comes to lifting up that prospect or your client and putting them on the pedestal? Because that is what will get you trust and credibility with them. If you immediately go on social and just start shouting at your audience, it's an advertisement for you selling insurance, you are going to fail miserably. You have to have that content strategy crafted. The other thing I wanted to hear from people is, how are they measuring their success? I don't care if you have a CRM system or not. Certainly it makes sense to have one. And if you're in an agency that's large enough and you don't have one, you're honestly losing and wasting money every single year because you just don't have as efficient a sales process as you can. You will never win that argument with me. The numbers don't lie. And if you don't have access to a dashboard that's going to allow you to see those numbers and then tweak your content as you go, then how are you even measuring anything? Another thing that I was looking for, not necessarily as a primary thing, but I just wanted to see if anybody would tell me, how are they going to create their content? Where are they going to come up with the ideas for the digital marketing strategy? And I was expecting for them to say something along the lines of things I've spoken about in public before, like, we're going to put a pad and a pen next to every phone in our office, and anytime someone is asked the same question twice, we've trained them to write it down, and now that is the subject of a blog post. Or say, I'm going to write on trucking insurance, and I went to answerthepublic.com, typed in trucking insurance, and it did a reverse Google search telling me all the questions people in my area have asked about trucking insurance. Guess what? That's a laundry list of blog posts and content that you can write about that. But the other thing I wanted people to do is think outside the box, because marketing is not advertising. While advertising is a part of marketing, it's not the be-all, end-all. Marketing is not just about the offer. It's not just about the call to action. Marketing is about developing a traffic stream, controlling that traffic stream, and driving it to where you want it to go. And sometimes that means you do content that's not just about insurance. Crystal Decker had a magnificent idea that she didn't even know she had in Challenge 1. She very flippantly said in Challenge 1, and I know all the great truck stops to eat at in the state of Kansas. That's a little information I give away for free. I sat with my fingers and my toes and everything else crossed as she unveiled her digital marketing plan, and I was waiting for it, and I was waiting for it, and I didn't get it. It would have been an immediate genius move for her to talk to me about how she was going to use that statement to create content that, albeit not insurance specific, would drive people to her company's website. I went to her company's website, I reviewed it, and I wanted to see if they had any content at all about her vertical markets on there, and it was minimal. But I saw that they had content that was peripheral to life in general that would be human interest or whatever and drive people to that page. So what I told Crystal in her feedback was that if she did a series of articles on the top 5 truck stops to eat at in the state of Kansas, the top 5 cheeseburgers at Kansas truck stops, the top 5 truck stops for wings, the best truck stop French fries, whatever. Do a series of blogs on that, link them to each other, link them to the different truck stops that are featured in the article, and create a massive web that is going to do nothing but breed SEO that will get tons of people to get on her domain. And then when they're there at the bottom of that post, have the suggested articles around insurance and risk management specific to truckers, and maybe sprinkle in one of the other articles about best of Kansas truck stops or best of whatever. It could be truck stops all over the country. I think so many times we get caught up in creating content about insurance, risk management, and whatever else that we forget we can just create solid content, period, and drive people to our page. The example that I use on this all the time now is the fact that I put out a ton of content on killing commercial insurance. That is a lead magnet for me to get people to come out and check out my blog, my YouTube channel, the Power Producers podcast, whatever I'm doing, as a lead magnet to come into the overall community, which is where I get paid. So what I found is that I'm putting a lot of content out on all of my social channels about killing commercial, Power Producers, all of that stuff. And now I've started to get messages on LinkedIn from CEOs and CFOs of companies that says this: David, I've been following your content on LinkedIn for a while. I love what you're doing to train other agents how to produce in the middle market and how to cultivate client relationships. We are not getting that from our agent right now. The reason I'm reaching out is to find out if your firm can represent us in our state, or do you have an agency in your network that does things the way that you teach that we could engage with, because we want to be treated the way that you treat your clients. This content isn't even meant for them, and yet they're finding it, they're consuming it, and they're coming back to me, and it's going to drive sales to me. That is an example of something peripheral to the overall mission of Florida Risk Partners that ultimately interests people and gets them to reach out. And so you have to think that way. You have to think that way about your content creation. It can't always be the serious business of insurance and risk management. You got to mix it up. One of the things that I think is also very, very important, and Sarah Rice did a great job of talking about this, and that is you got to humanize it. You have to make sure that people see you're a real person. And if you're watching this show and you're connected to me on social, you know I'm about the most open connector that there is. I put it all out there. You either love me or you don't, and that's fine. I don't really care one way or the other. Obviously, I care that people like me, but if you don't like me, that's fine. I don't expect everybody to like me that consumes my content. I expect a subset of them to think I'm a jerk and they hate me, or I'm an arrogant prick that just constantly puts stuff out because I feel better about myself for doing it. While that couldn't be further from the truth, the harsh reality is people think that. I know because they email me. They're kind enough to let me know that. But there's also an overwhelming majority of the people who understand that I have a special needs son. They understand that I'm family first. They understand that my number one why in this industry is to be able to fill in the blank for my daddy was there when. No matter what it is. I don't care if it's a recital, a ball practice, a ball game, or you just need to talk to dad to help you with your homework or whatever else. I will always be there. And people see that on social. And while you can't call that digital marketing, I think you probably can to a certain degree, because it humanizes who you are and it makes you a real person. And for those people who are attracted to you, they're going to want to do business with you. And those people who aren't, they're going to weed themselves out. I don't know what better form of natural selection there is. That's why the blog is so important. Blog posts written by you as the producer are paramount to this whole thing. Those people who you have your voice resonate with them are going to be attracted to you, and you will do business with them. Those people who don't like your voice will never reach out to you, will never call you, and guess what? That's okay. That's absolutely perfect. So overall, great challenge. It is getting really, really tight at the top. There were some people who stepped up this week that didn't step up last week, and there were a couple people who did much better last week than they did this week, but that's where we're at in the stage of the game at this point. So I think everybody should have learned something from this episode. And until next time, kill or be killed. You're not going to believe next week's protege.
Yeah, I'm going to blow this thing up.
Another day beyond. No rest for the weary.
I hope you're enjoying your bubble gun here.